Boom, here we go. Recording started. Anita, welcome. Pierce, welcome. Ronald, welcome. Lynn, welcome. Pam, welcome. Pam Lambert, welcome. Don't be shy, guys. I want to see you guys checking in. Hey, Lori, welcome. Lori Donahue, been with us for many, many years. David, welcome. Kelly, wow, I could spend a whole hour just saying welcome. This is great, guys. This is going to be a great webinar, and I'll tell you why. This is something that I feel very passionate about. I feel very good about it. It's one of those moments that's really heart-opening and heartwarming. So I'm going to trust my intuition here that this is going to be an awesome webinar. Here's why. We're going to do things a little bit differently today than we usually have. And Megan, are you here? Can you hear us? Can I hear you? Can you say something? Megan, we need you. Unmute yourself. Get someone in the office to help you. All right, guys. So while Megan's figuring out her sound situation, maybe Megan, you have to log out and log back in. Try that. That should fix the sound situation. Brad, I see you're playing with your unmute button. All right. So while Megan's figuring out audio, I am going to pause the sharing my screen here for a second, and I'm going to get our tech guys in the office to jump over to her desk and give her a hand. As you can tell, guys, this is live. This is happening live. If the volume is low, turn up the volume. We're coming to you live from Santa Monica, Long Beach, and San Diego on the left coast of this country. Everyone can hear me? Yes? Good. All right. We can't hear you, Megan. Log out and log back in. All right. Hey, Brad, you see my screen okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. What do you see right now?
I see the probate data Powergym January 30th, 2020.
There we go. Just want to make sure we're on the same page here. All right. So before we get into this, I want to share a sweet story about Brad. Is that okay, Brad?
Depends on what story that is.
Well, we were on a webinar the other day, and it was really sweet because the way you kicked it off was like, well, guys, I'm a dad of an 11-year-old daughter, and today's the day it happened. I dropped Ellie off, and this was the day where she was too cool for school, where she didn't want dad to walk her all the way up to gate, and I just stood there and said bye and watched her walk in. And I didn't get to share this with you. I thought that was really sweet because I have a 5-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old, and one of my biggest joys in life is actually walking to school, having those conversations. And I see parents kind of at the corner saying goodbye to the kids and watching the kids walk all the way in. So when you said that, I was like, oh man, my heart goes out to you. It was such a pivotal moment, in life. But that's what drives us, right? It's like having these sweet moments with people that we care about and that we love, whether it's our kids or other people. So I just wanted to acknowledge you because I haven't had a chance to talk to you since that webinar, and now we're going to do this in front of 200 people, but I wanted you to hear this nonetheless. So thanks for sharing that. That was really great.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well, it kind of reminds me a little bit, and I want you guys to make sure that you understand today is actually a really interactive webinar, which means in the Q&A box that many of you have been very active on right now already, there's 150 people. And you know, we're going to max out at 500. I know we're going to hit 500 because we've had over 500 register, and I just know these things. Usually, half the people show up, and I think in this case we'll have 2/3 of the people. So this is going to be live and interactive. So I want to do a check-in with everybody. I want you guys to tell us, give us something good that happened, something new and good this week, something for which you're grateful. You know, I play this game with my daughters every evening at the dinner table. My 2-year-old kind of doesn't get it yet, but my 5-year-old gets it. We call it the triumph of the heart. What was something that today that was we say in French, coup de cœur, something that the triumph of the heart, something good that happened. So go ahead and share with us here, and if you don't want me to read it out loud, I won't. But if you're okay with me sharing with the rest, then I'm going to share it. So let's get all the same page here. Let's get in a place of of feeling good about what happened this week. Think of something that happened this week. Someone passed his NSA. That's great. What else? That was Ronald. Congratulations on that. Something. Cliff is saying, I woke up on this side of the lawn. David saying, I got paid. I love it. What else, guys? Something that you're grateful for this week, something that's good. It can't just be Ronald, Cliff, and David that had something good happen to him this week. I know, Brad, yours was kind of bittersweet, but I think it was good in the long run, right?
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, because she wasn't feeling well the other day, and then she said, you know, Dad, would you walk me to class? So I was like, oh, I was cool again.
Oh,
That's
can you hear me
awesome.
now?
Yes, Megan, we got you. All right.
Awesome. Okay.
John said, I had a birthday. Happy birthday. I spent time with my son last night with Brian. Welcome, Brian. That's awesome. Had another breakthrough with my physical therapy. Lori, that's huge. That's awesome. Every day is great, says Pam. I am forever grateful for life itself. Roger saying, I can't hear anything. All right, well, Roger, you need to turn up the microphone. Let me type that in here. Turn up the speakers on your computer. Turn on those speakers. All right, I lost 10 pounds this week. Wow, Gary, that's awesome. My daughter made it home safely. Great. So my point is that you guys can hear me okay. Some of you are saying you still can't hear me. Turn up the speakers. Do what you need to do. Alicia's saying, I signed up for CPRES course this week. It's my new niche. Love it. All right. So my point here is like there's so much to be grateful for. And I think when we get into it, we realize that what we're grateful for is either something around our health, around our relationships, or around our wealth. So whether we got paid this week like David, or like Brian spent time with his son last night, or someone lost weight, it's either in relationships, health, or wealth. And we work really hard so we can spend more time in those areas, excelling in those areas. So today's webinar is really geared towards giving you guys actually we might have a 6th surprise strategy, but 5 strategies that have been proven to actually work so that you can have more time with the people you love, working on things and on projects that you care about. That's really what I want to get into here. So I want to get us all into that mindset, that heart set, that this is why we're here. This is what we're working on today, right? So I'm going to introduce our guest for today. I'm going to start with Meggen, ladies first, Meggen Walker. And the reason why we have her on the call today is because she's really the one that's been championing these 5 core strategies over the last 2 years. And this is how I know it's been proven. I've been listening very, very carefully and watching Meggen for the last 2 years. Meggen is in our company as she's been working with individual agents, giving them strategies. You know, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do next, or I have all these leads. How do I approach? Where do I start? What should I do next, or what's something unique and different? And she listens to them very carefully to what their gifts and talents are. She goes, well, you should try this thing, you should try that thing. And then they'll call her back like a week or 2 later, said, this is working, I feel really great about it. And they'll call back like a month later, like I got a listing, or I got a result. Like one key story that stands out is Jerry Murbury out of Arizona that went from, you know, extremely high debt, around $20,000 in debt, to a high 6-figure earner within a year, and became the top 1% of his firm of 500 agents. So he was in the top 5 agents within a year using one of the strategies that Meggen's going to talk about. So Meggen, I'm really excited you're on today, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. It really is. I'm excited to join you all, and thank you everyone for having me.
Wonderful. The other guest that we have, you've already heard a little bit from him, is Brad Brinkman. And the reason I want to have 2 of them here is very simple, because you guys are the 3rd person here. You guys are going to be the 3rd person in making this fun and interactive. So here's how it's going to play out. Brad, as you probably know, has sold over 500 properties since 1997. He's written several books on real estate, one of them being on probate real estate. He's a big part of UPLC, and he's so passionate about this niche. And he's obviously a top producer in this niche and in regular in real estate as well. He's been in this for over, 20 years now, Brad? 20 plus years?
Yeah, gonna be 23 this year.
23. Okay.
Wow.
So 23 years, right? So I wanted Brad on this call as well because he's someone who's in the trenches. He's there shoulder to shoulder with you guys. He understands the frustrations that you guys are going through. Now, this is where you guys come in. I want to introduce the first strategy in just a little bit. Meggen's going to then give it some context and talk about how it works and why it works and what your next steps are. As she's talking, I want you to think through what a potential PR objections might be. So in other words, let's say she's talking about out-of-state PRs, right? And she says you got to send them a letter, you got to call them up. Now I want you to think about, well, what's the possible objection I could get if I talk to them? What's the possible thing that you guys hear in objections that why they want to talk to you? And then I'm going to look for the common thread among objections. And what's going to happen is this: I am going to take the top 2 or 3 objections, and what we're going to do is we're going to throw that hot potato right at Brad, and Brad's going to listen to the objection and say, okay, here's how I would overcome it. So we're going to give you strategy, how to work it. You're going to give us objections that you guys can think about, and then Brad's going to overcome the objections. Good or good? Let me see some feedback. Let me see some feedback here. Good or good? Good or great? Let's hear it. There's close to 200 people on this podcast. I was going to say podcast, webinar. Let's do it. Okay, so Brad Brinkman, and here we go. So we're going to dive into the first one here. I'm going to minimize my questions, and we're going to go into an overview. So today we're going to talk about the 5 proven prospecting strategies, the possible objections, and overcoming the objections. That's exactly what I just talked about. So let's go over the 5. There's 5 strategies we're going to talk about. The first one is going to be out-of-state PRs. The second is going to be in pro per or pro se, depending on what state you're in. The third one is going to be attorneys and working through and with attorneys. The fourth one is going to be beneficiaries. The fifth one is going to be historical prospecting. And then the sixth one is kind of a new one. It's a mystery niche within a niche. If we have the time, we'll cover it. And guys, just so we're clear, like we're going to take max 45 minutes today, maybe an hour if you guys stick around. And if we don't get through all of it, we'll have a follow-up webinar and we'll just cover the rest then, okay? So don't worry about not getting everything covered. We're going to take the time we need. So Meggen, are you ready for the first one?
I sure am.
All right, so let's talk about out-of-state PRs. So let's give us some context, why it works, how it works, and kind of the first steps that an agent should consider doing. And Meggen, you don't have to follow this outline here. I'm just giving this as a visual so people it helps them listen. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay. All righty. Well, let me also just really quickly speak to what you said earlier, that these are proven strategies. I would dearly love to say I thought of all of these myself and vetted them all myself, but that is just simply not the truth. I speak very often, really consistently all day, every day with our clients, and I'm constantly listening to what they tell me. That they love to tell me their successes. They love to tell me where they're frustrated. And when I hear success, I'm making mental notes constantly. In fact, I often refer to this imaginary giant toolbox next to my desk that I'm just constantly putting these tools in there because they're golden. They're absolutely golden. So regarding out-of-state PR, Mike refers to it in the training. You all may remember him referring to out-of-state PR as a good strategy. And it is, and I'd love to tell you why. The concept is the decedent and the property is in your county, and the PR, meaning the person that, of course, has the responsibility to proceed with this, lives out of state, right? So, in my case, I live in California. My dad lives in Florida, and the same is going to be true for these other out-of-state PRs. So, if let's say the house and the probate is going in Florida, and you've got this lead in front of you, and the PR lives in New York, well, it's going to be not incredibly feasible for that PR in New York to service the need to liquidate. And who better than you, being certified in probate, knowing the area, knowing the market, having your list of partners that you use every day in all of your real estate business, whether it be gardeners or folks that can do cleanup, or pool guys, or all of the people that you keep close to you and have vetted, you would be that point person. And it's almost too easy to call that person, call that PR, or write to them, whatever you would prefer to do. Reach out to them and really be of service. First and foremost, be of service, and see what they need, where they're at. You know, if they are concerned about needing to liquidate the house, you're there. You know, you can give them a comparable. You can be all that in a bag of chips to them, and they need it. In my case, if we use me as an example, the thought of me flying across the country to clean up a property, to meet with a fix-it person, it's just completely not realistic. So if an agent were to reach out to me and say, look, I know you're going through probate, something to the effect of, I know you're going through this probate, I want to be anything I can be for you. You know, I'm very familiar with the area. And you know, actually I did a drive-by. I know what the property looks like. I sold in that neighborhood as an example. And I can help you out. You know, what do you think of that? Certainly not that script, that's off the top of my head, but just in general, and however it is that you like to begin conversations with folks, whether it be in probate or in other aspects of your real estate business. So that's essentially really simple. That's the concept. That the PR lives out of state, and they don't know the market. They probably don't have any idea what the value of the house is. You know, in Southern California, we have all kinds of different micro markets, right? So if the PR lives in Texas, no idea what the property is worth. You know, even just living here, I don't know what a house would be worth 3 cities over. It really takes a licensed agent to do a proper comparable and get that to the PR. So that's just empowering people.
Great. Brad, do you have anything you want to add to that? Have you ever prospected to PRs that are out of state? And then once you answer that question, we can kind of come up. I got a few objections here on the chat box, and then we're going to throw the objections at you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the for me, it's like as soon as I took Mike's class, I asked him one question. I said, who are the people that are ready to go now? Like, who can I get listings for right away? Because I wanted to get listings as soon as possible, and as does everybody else, right? So he said, you know, you want to go and you want to grab the out of state people. You want to go and you want to grab those that are, you know, that have filed for a while and haven't done anything. You know, you can just cross-reference to see if their property is sold. So that's what I did, and I love the out of area owners because, you know, a lot of them were getting tons of calls, tons of mail, and they were pretty over it. You know, that those first couple weeks they were just sick of it, sick of the calls, and but I just steadily kept talking to them. You know, on a like every week I would say, well, you know, I get it. You know, and first of all, I just diffused them. I diffused the bomb. You know, just like everything else, you know, you got to get your prospect to relax, right? Mm-hmm. And so you tell them, you know, like, I understand, I get it. Like, there's not a shortage of people that are just going to be, you know, telling you that they can, you know, deliver the cake and they're going to give you crumbs. I was like, I'm not that guy. And so you know who I am. You know, and I tell my name and I said, I'm going to give you a call back, you know, another week, and you know, when you're a little bit more settled, and then go from there. And so then I time it, you know, I time it. I say, okay, look, you know, I could see how overwhelmed that person was, and I usually ask them when a good time to reach them is, and if they don't give time, I was like, I just can't deal with this, you know, then I'll call them on like a Friday afternoon when things are usually a little bit more calm for them. You know, might be like, you know, 4 or 5 on a Friday, maybe a Saturday afternoon. So, you know, timing is critical, and then just going out there and just really just making sure that you are being consistent and you're setting yourself apart initially when you're talking with them, so that, you know, that your confidence comes through, and you're like, you know, like in your mind, you're like, I don't really care if this person wants to work with me or not. I'm gonna work with somebody, and, you know, maybe they're the one. And then that, you know, and you just tell them, you say, look, can I be direct with you? And then they'll be like, sure. And I said, you know, nobody's going to do a better job than me than helping you. And I will give you a clear picture of all your options so that you feel you're making the right decision either way. And so you know who I am when I call you back. My name is Brad Brinkman, and I work with Century 21. Please give me a, please keep me in mind. And if you need anything in the meanwhile, I can shoot you a quick text when we hang up, so you have my email, and go from there.
Great. So let's throw an objection at you. So I got a couple. So I would summarize them into two different categories, and maybe these are not specific to out-of-state PRs. But before I do that, I just want to preface a few things I should have said at the beginning. You know, we are assuming here that your two big assumptions I'm making here. Number one is that you're getting your probate leads from ProbateData. Number two is that you're getting leads from ProbateData on our Platinum program, and here's why. I forgot to do this ahead of time. You know, the Platinum service will send you, a couple of emails throughout the month whenever we upload cases to our platform on ProbateData, and then we'll send an email directly and say, hey, here are the leads. Click on it, download. You don't have to log into ProbateData ever again if you don't want to, unless if you want to do the historical prospecting, which Meggen's going to cover later. So I'm assuming most of you have Platinum, ProbateData Platinum. So if you're getting regular emails with leads in your inbox, you're on Platinum. If you're not getting those emails, you're not on Platinum, and you can email support@probatedata.com to get on Platinum, and then Demetrius will get you sorted out. But I'm not going to go into how that works and what it is and why it's valuable, other than it's leads directly in your inbox. It's unlimited for the 3 counties that you choose. And you can still log into ProbateData and download historical data, which Meggen's going to talk about later, why that's valuable. Just from the top of my head, out-of-state PRs, it's what both of you alluded to is that they don't know the market as well as you do. And when you get at them saying, look, I have all these resources available to you that I can help you with, you don't have to research a locksmith, you don't have to research a hauling service, you don't have to research a gardener, you don't have to research an estate sales service. I got those in my back pocket. I'm here to help you get through this, right? That's so much more valuable than someone who's local. So you can change your pitch a little bit there. All right, let's get into the objections. Let's see here. So one of them from Ludine, she's saying that kind of covers a few of them. She goes, well, Brad, this is me being the PR. You know what, Brad? I've received hundreds of letters and calls from realtors already. Why should I talk to you?
Well, I understand, and this that can be overwhelming. And the reason that you should talk to me is going to be that you realize that nobody is really saying anything different. And the more that you talk with me, the more you see that I actually care about my clients, and I want this to work out well for you. So when you're ready, you can give me a call anytime. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to me. And just so you know who I am, my name is Brad Brinkman, and I work with Century 21. Please keep me in mind, and I wish you the best of luck either way.
That's awesome. Just very quickly, if I could interject, that
sure.
People know when you have integrity. They can hear it in your voice. If you're confident and you're cool and collected, it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes about who you are. And you already, by definition, you're going to have street cred because you already know way more than they do about the property in question, right, and the area.
Yeah, no, that's great. Here's another objection, and this is from Joe and a couple others. They're referring to the attorney. So Joe, so I'm just going to read Joe's question. Joe Prue, he's saying, so Brad, I'm the PR. So hey, Brad, so our attorney's handling everything.
Great. That's so.
Good objection.
It's so good that you have an attorney that really handles everything for you, and that's exactly why I was calling you, because I just I've heard a lot of people say that, and it doesn't always work out that way. And so let me ask you this: are they helping you with the tax implications of the sale? And like 99% of the time, they're like, no. And I said, oh, okay. How about the the personal property and the estate appraisals? Are they helping you to coordinate that? No, they're not. You see, I don't work like that. I tell you everything up front, so that way you have a clear picture of all your options, so you feel you're making the right decision.
Brilliant. I like it. Yeah. Brian is saying, my challenge sometimes is getting the PR to actually talk to me. They are closed off and say everything is going fine. They don't need my help. All is good. So Brian, before we throw this at Brad here, keep in mind, they don't know what they don't know until they're like neck deep into it. So if you're calling someone that just filed, they might think everything's fine, but if they're like 90 days into it, at that point they know what the problem is. So let's just play this out two different ways, Brad. Let's say you're calling on me, and I just filed like 3 weeks ago, and I say, hey Brad, everything's fine, thanks for checking in, everything's good, I don't need any help at all.
Okay, great, Jonathan. Well, that sounds fantastic, and because I understand this is a a big decision that you have to make with the house, and juggling all the calls back and forth to the bank and to the attorney's office, and I want you to feel comfortable with whatever you decide. And Jonathan, just so I'm clear, right now, what is your biggest concern with probate and with the property itself?
Oh, I just don't know. There's so many things in the woodworks. I just filed. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around what's happening here.
Oh, you just filed. Okay, I see. Yeah, and if everything worked out ideally for you, when would you want to have this all over with?
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible. Okay, great. Now, what do you think? When you're talking with your attorney, I mean, is this the first time you're doing this, Jonathan? Is it the first time that you're an executor of an estate?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you say that your attorney is pretty proactive, and are they on board with trying to get this done as soon as possible?
Yeah, because I mean that's how they get paid too, right?
Right. Yeah. I asked that question because a lot of times that's the biggest thing that holds things up, just because attorneys get busy, and really no probate, no, just so you know, no attorney really specializes in probate only. They do a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm glad. And so, and you want to sell this as soon as possible. So that's what I specialize in doing. I specialize in getting the absolute highest price in the quickest amount of time. And I was just wondering, would you be able to show me the property? That way I can give you an idea of value, so that when you're ready, you can hit the ground running and get this sold.
Okay, let's stop here. Great. So this is a good addition, and we have a couple other strategies we want to get into. I think Sui got up with the objections. Attorney is already a real estate broker. Let's just cover that, because I feel like there's a lot of times, especially when we do these trainings, we always get this question from an agent, like, well, why do they need me if their attorney can sell the real estate? So, so I don't know if that's an objection from the PR, or that's an objection you have in your head to moving forward, because I don't know that a lot of regular folks out there going through probate actually know that an attorney is a licensed broker as well. But let's just go through it. And I say to you, Brad, well, my attorney, he's a real estate broker as well, and he could probably sell it.
Oh, your attorney, he's a real estate broker as well?
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's fantastic. Now, what does he spend most of his time doing? Is it an his attorney practice, or is it real estate?
I think it's attorney stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, again, whatever you decide, Jonathan, I want you to feel comfortable with your decision, because it is a big decision, right? And so what we found is that when people try to wear two hats and do two different things, they don't really do either very well. And that's exactly why I specialize in selling probate properties. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so when can we get together? Is tomorrow at 3 good for you, or is today better for you? Because I'm actually in your area today.
Perfect. All right, let's stop here. Great. All right, let's do one more from Fabian Moreno. This is a little bit more aggressive. He's saying, there's 3 different things. He's saying, on one hand, let's treat this as 2 different objections. We're already working with a realtor. Brad, I'm already working with a realtor.
Okay, that's fantastic. And now tell me, have you already signed a contract with that realtor?
No. Well, I know this guy from the neighborhood, but we haven't signed anything yet.
Yeah, okay, I see. Well, Jonathan, I think that, maybe your neighbor, the person that because it's always good to know somebody in the business, and that may be what's best for you. But what I always say is that, it takes, an extra 15, 20 minutes to get a second opinion, just so that you have clarity as to all your options so you feel you're making the best decision. So what I would like to do is maybe get together with you this weekend just for 15, 20 minutes. There's no obligation, and whether you decide to work with me or not, it's fine. But this way you'll have a good idea of the value, and that way you'll be able to contrast the two and see what's best for you. Does that make sense?
All right, let's stop right there. So guys, I hope you're paying a
Wait, can I interject something really quick on that one?
Yeah.
That my question would be also, so is your friend from church? It's great that you've got those kind of folks in your life, but are they certified? Are they certified in probate real estate? Because there are some nuances that I think it might be very, very helpful for you to have my background. If they don't have that,
yeah,
you kind of got one up on them.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And what we're saying right now is not just for out of state or anything like that. This is for any situation. I think that objection of saying, well, I'm going to work with my friend from church. He's a real estate agent. You go, great. That's so great you have someone like that in your life that can help with that. And then pay attention to when they filed. Because if they just filed, they have no idea what's coming their way and all the things they got to do. But if they're like 60 to 90 days into it and they still haven't thought about it because there's some nuances there and there's some issues going on there, that's when you bring up you can bring up the whole CPRES thing and say, are they certified? Have they done this before? You filed 4 months ago. Have you filed your notice to creditors? Are all the heirs, have they filed their claims? Have creditors filed? It's just speaking the jargon so they know that you know what you're talking about, and their friend from church or wherever their friend is or their neighbor has not asked those questions. So when you ask questions that relate to the situation they're going through, what ends up happening is you're building rapport, you're connecting them, you're meeting them where they're at. I once worked with a personal trainer coach. I was helping him with his marketing, and one of his tagline was, "We'll meet you where you're at." And he specialized in people that were extremely overweight, had diabetes issues, were obese, and he's like, if it just means you getting out of the chair and walking around the block with me, that I'll meet you exactly where you're at. Oh, he worked with people that were like in cross. He's like, I'll meet you exactly where you're at. That's where you got to come at it here. Wherever they're at, you got to meet them right there. Don't talk above them. Don't talk below them. Meet them exactly where they're at. All right, Meggen, let's dive into the next one. Pro per and pro se. Let's talk a little bit about the context and why it works and how it works.
All right. Well, so you may remember from the training that the term pro per, also pro se, it means the same thing. It simply means that they're representing themselves, right? So what I have gleaned is that almost always, the reason they have chosen not to have representation by an attorney is because they are under the impression, whether it is real or imagined, that the estate cannot afford an attorney. Potentially there's not a ton of equity, maybe there's no real assets other than the property, whatever it is. And again, it could be just the impression and not be real. But if they don't have an attorney representing them, we know this for sure. They have no one guiding them, right? So we know that the judge is not going to take time out of his busy docket to explain what's coming. We also know that we've all heard, them included, our entire lives, that probate is just an ugly, lengthy, complicated process. I can't tell you, I've heard since I was a kid, oh my gosh, you want to keep everything out of probate. You don't want to get it tied up in probate, blah, blah, blah. So they've heard that narrative. So that's going to speak to their fear. And two, if we know that their concern is that they're thinking that they can't afford an attorney, then we know that is a potential, a potential prospect that there's a very high likelihood that they're going to need to liquidate and liquidate quickly, right? So the investors, they might be, sort of prey to investors. And I don't mean that investors are bad people, don't get me wrong, but if they're desperate and they're making decisions shooting from the hip, they're not making deliberate, educated decisions. And that's really where you as CPRES agents come in. You can be that person to light their path. You can be the person to be their go-to. When they're saying, if you were to get them on the phone and to be able to speak to them, you can quell those fears that they have. They easily may not know at what point the house is going to be able to be sold. They may be still thinking that they have to get through probate entirely before the house can be sold. And if they're worried about the expenses that it takes to maintain a property. Perhaps they're staring down the barrel of property taxes due. They came across the property tax bill being due on granddad's desk. I don't have that kind of money. I'm trying to take care of 2 kids in college. I got a mortgage on my own. I didn't even know I was going to have this responsibility.
Yeah.
So, combined with any other expense that it takes to maintain a property, potentially those folks have never owned a property themselves. They literally are completely unprepared. And so really it creates an opportunity for you to again, quell those fears. And all the time that we're doing that, we're building rapport, as Jonathan mentioned.
Yeah.
Because you're speaking to their fear, you're calming them down, you're listening intently to what it is that they're saying. They'll tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
If you give them the opportunity. So listen for those fears and then speak to it. Like Brad was mentioning, just speak right to it.
Yeah, and also one thing I want to add about in pro per is that could be one motivation that Meggen's mentioning, is that they don't think they can afford an attorney. But sometimes they also just don't want to pay fees. They feel like they can handle it all themselves. They're like, it's just paperwork. I don't need to pay an attorney, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, whatever it is. I got this, right? And they get into it, and then, or sometimes I've seen, like, in rare cases, like the PR is an actual attorney. It's a family, it's a cousin, nephew, grandson, whatever, and they happen to be an attorney. But those cases are really rare. Most of the time, it's just someone who feels confident at the time that they can handle it, and or that they can't afford an attorney, or they don't want to pay attorney fees. So that's
well. And myself as an example, were this me with my dad passing and me being the oldest child, and being from a business background and being on the planet long enough, I would want to be in control. I'd be the one going down to file that probate. I'm going to take care of this, and my eyes would suddenly get very, very big when I saw how much I have to do.
Yeah.
All the while I'm dealing with all the solicitation fatigue that I'm experiencing. I got people coming out of the woodwork trying to speak with me, and I'm feeling very private and very like a lion with a thorn in my paw. And so to hear, and just to quickly refer to one of our all-star agents, I like to call our folks that really do a great probate business, and we have many of them. And I love to speak with them. Deborah likens her demeanor, and this applies to all of the strategies really, but she likens her demeanor to that of a emergency room physician. And I found that so fascinating, because that's exactly the person that I would be listening to. That's exactly who I would listen to. I wouldn't be, if she's calm, cool, and collected, and is offering options. This is what you can expect, much like an emergency room physician when the wife or the husband has a heart attack and you don't know what to do. Well, we've got surgery with this option. There's this option. This is how I see this going. And you become that go-to person. All the while you're building that rapport and calming their fears, and they're listening to you. So I think that's important, particularly with the folks that don't have an attorney, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And we'll talk about this in the next strategy, but regarding attorneys, if they didn't go with an attorney and they thought, like I was mentioning myself as an example, and then suddenly I get overwhelmed, I'm going to want to go find an attorney, but I'm not even going to know how to do that. And do I need to do that? And who do I trust? So if my agent says, or if the CPRES agent is saying, look, I've got a great guy. I've worked with him so many times, and he's willing to do a free consult for you just because I know you. Why don't you just go see him and hear what he has to say? Even though you don't have an attorney, for the probate case itself, go get a consult. Again, you're becoming the go-to person.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I love it. So a couple comments and / questions and suggestions so there's one from Joe Prue and Sally Schneider. They're kind of talking about the same thing. They're suggesting that you ask the PR, like, now that the property is vacant, if the property is vacant, have you changed your insurance policy now that it's vacant? Or Sally saying a lot of times, the ones that don't use attorney a lot of times cancel the homeowner's insurance, which is in Kentucky, you have to have in place in order to close. So these in pro pers, they'll take shortcuts to save money, not knowing they're actually extending the process further out. So from Joe and Sally, thank you for that. Lori Donahue has a good comment and question. She's talking about what if the ProPerb says or asks that they where are they going to get the money to pay mortgage and pay property taxes? They're looking for money now. I know there are agents that would front the rehab money for the kitchen and bathroom, and then they have the estate pay them at close of escrow. So actually, I think this is a good question for Brad. Brad, you have a lot of experience in doing probate with and trust deals with developers. And like, what would you say to a situation where the PR says, I need money right now. I just basic stuff. I can't keep paying out of pocket. I know that I'm sitting on like an $800,000 potential windfall here, but between now and closing, I gotta do something, right? And if I want to fix up the bathroom and the kitchen to get the maximum value, what can I do there? So do you have some thoughts on what Lori could say or do to help a PR out like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, gosh, Jonathan, I want to help you figure out the best, strategy here, because I'm always going to be on your side. And it sounds like you need money right away for these things.
Yeah.
And I get that. So let me ask you, if we can get you that money, right away, would you be interested in selling the property to us?
Yeah, I want to get the highest value. So I don't have money to fix it up.
Okay. So perfect, because that helps me. So you want to make sure that you're getting the absolute highest price for the property, but you don't have the money to fix it up to do so. Is that am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, exactly. I know I'm sitting on an extra $100,000 in windfall here, money. If I could just put in another 30,000 to fix up these areas, and I really, it's a missed opportunity here.
I see. And let me ask you, have you talked to, as many people as possible about, maybe borrowing that money or getting it, or do you have the resources through a bank?
No, it's not there. I gotta come up with something creative here.
Okay. Well, we've helped a lot of people in your same situation, Jonathan. And what we do is we make sure that we get you the money that you need to fix up the property. And that's money that, you don't have right now. And then what we do is we take that money, and as long as we're getting, paid back after the sale, and we'll take a small percentage for lending that money. Or it could be a portion of the equity. It's whatever you decide, because we want you to be comfortable with whatever you decide. But if we can get you that money and it makes sense for you, would that be something that you'd like to explore?
Yeah, okay, let's end it here. That's a good creative approach. I think the other one was also, Lori was asking, what if it's not for a rehab? Like, I don't have money, I need to move forward, I can barely make it right now as it is. This is a huge burden. And let's say the property's upside down, it's a negative equity, which in today's market is very unlikely, but let's just say that, grandma had a reverse mortgage that she maxed out, and now the property's worth $500,000, but she's got like $500,000 loan on it, so there's no equity there. A lot of times what you can do is you can work with companies like Inheritance Funding, inheritancefunding.com, I believe. What they'll do is they'll work with the PRs and they work with the beneficiaries, and then they'll say, okay, well, once this whole thing sells and there's money left, you stand to inherit, say, $80,000. We'll front you, $50,000, and we'll submit that as part of closing and part of the creditor claims in the probate process. Then we'll get paid back plus interest when everything closes, but we'll front you the money up front. So those are inheritance funding people that can help you with that. So let's see.
Yeah, a lot of times you can go right to your wholesaler too. I mean, if you're surrounding yourself, and this is what you should be surrounding yourself with, people that have the resources to do such a thing, so that where you can say, you know what, you need to just go to your wholesaler. Like, look, this person needs $30,000. Let's release it to them through escrow, so long as that they've removed all their their reasons to back out, and then we're good.
Yeah, so we're getting questions now about, like, where do you get this kind of money? How do you find wholesalers? What kind of paperwork? What kind of contract do you use to secure the payback? We're not going to get into the weeds now. We're getting distracted. We're going too far off the track. But if you guys are interested in that, email us that you want to hear more about this stuff. Don't put it in the chat right now because I'm going to get overwhelmed. Just email support at MT Education. Say, we'd like to hear a class on like how this wholesaling thing works, and maybe I can twist Brad's arm to come teach us a few things. All right. So, if that's okay with you, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, let me just give them a quick answer because these are my people. I feel for you guys. So, as realtors, people just treat us like garbage sometimes. What you do is you want to go to these investment groups, get involved, but they go to associations, just look up the wholesale associations in your area, start to meet people because then you can develop that list of people that you can go to.
So Brad, what would you Google if you were say out in Kentucky and you were Sally Schneider, right? And she wants to start working with wholesalers. She likes the idea, but like, what should she Google? Did we lose you?
Oh, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, I would say I would just Google, investment groups, wherever she is in Kentucky, real estate investment groups, Louisville, Kentucky, wherever.
Yeah, yeah.
There are investors. We have them as clients. There are folks that I speak to all the time, and I know who they are. They do this specifically, and the reason I know that is because they buy the lead, so they're very well familiar with lending to folks going through probate.
Yeah.
It's so important to do this, and like don't ever gloss over that. And be like, oh, that sounds good. Hold on to that because you could be talking to one person, for example, for about 3.5 years now, I've had one client that has been almost a little over 55% of my business. Okay. And it's just like you just need that one person. It's like the Holy Grail client. And so just keep that in mind when you're going there, because I know it's a pain in the butt to go out there. Oh, mate, sometimes the meetings are late. Sometimes you got to go to a bunch of meetings. But use your intuition, and just you talk to people. You're in sales, and then you can research the person, see what they are, make sure that they're doing the right things, because they're going to be a reflection of you to your client.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I'm getting more questions on how about this works. What are the titles only in the name of deceased? How does the executor get the money, and so on and so forth. So I think what we should do is maybe think about doing a separate class. So I'm just gonna do a time check here. It's 10 to 4. We're way over our time. We have 3 more strategies. We have attorneys, we have beneficiaries, we have out-of-state PRs, and we also have that mystery. So we actually have 4. So I'm just going to check in with everyone. Can we go for another 20 minutes and then call it a day, and then we'll cover the rest in a different one? Or do you guys want to just keep going until we cover everything? And I'm going to check in with Brad and with Meggen too. You guys are okay on time?
I'm certainly okay on time. I do want to make sure we're being polite in that we do have folks on the East Coast. Okay. So it's pushing 7 for them. And yeah. I don't, there's so much good stuff here. I personally, I'd love to see if we can get through some of the questions that are on the table currently, and then let's reconvene and really be sharp for what we're listening for.
Well, let's do this. I'm getting kind of mixed signals here online. A lot of people saying let's keep going, and someone saying let's reconvene because I need to go. This is being recorded. This is being recorded. Okay, so why don't we keep going until people drop off, and then let's just finish today's lecture. Go all in, and then we'll send out the recording by latest tomorrow, and you guys can review the whole thing on your own. So let's keep going, and then if there's any questions for those of you that need to leave, we'll answer those by emails later. So attorneys, go ahead, Meggen.
All righty, attorney. So I find it really interesting. It's very common for folks that go through the training to have the takeaway that, you know what, I've got it. I took the training. I get it. You know what? I'm going to go to the source. I'm going to go make a relationship with the probate attorneys in my area. That's going to be it. I'm not going to mess with the PRs. I'm going to go. I'm sorry. I'm not going to mess with prospecting and chasing them without having the blessing of the attorney. That's going to give me street cred. It's going to give me what I need. It's going to give me that edge. And to that I say, awesome. Fantastic. Go for it. However, keep in mind that attorneys are not in the business of throwing you business necessarily, right? They're in the business of billing hours. So when you're trying to create a relationship with them, you're going to encounter what we call a gatekeeper, right? The reception person, the person who will take the mailing that you may have done, maybe auditing email and that you're sending, not allowing you to get through on the phone. which is not to say that you can't develop those relationships. However, you do need to get creative. More often than not, you've got to get creative. And one of the ways I've heard two that really seem to be viable. One of them is when you're sending an email to refer to the probate case number so that it catches the eye of whoever it is that is receiving it, whether it be an assistant or the attorney, he or she self. That I've heard that several times that is a way to have the sense that, okay, we're on the same page. All right, this is not just somebody who's soliciting to me. This is actually someone who is in the game, paying attention, and has some vested interest. Potentially, the person, the client of the attorney had reached out to the agent, you guys, and that agent is wanting to touch base with the attorney, so everyone's on the same page. So that's potentially a good one. The other, and I think this is my favorite. In fact, I know it is that when you complete a transaction, is that you reach out to the attorney post closing, and that you now share a client, right? He or she can't deny, as an attorney, they can't deny that you are in the game. You are part of the transaction. So let's face it, and I mean this with love, but attorneys often, again, a major generalization, but often they've got kind of a big ego, and so stroke the ego and say, look, I something to the effect of, I just want to thank you for doing such a good job with my client. They have nothing but great things to say about you. You made my life so much easier, and I really like to work with stars, and clearly you're one of them. Again, please plug in your own adjectives into what you're going to say. I wouldn't dream of telling anyone what to say specifically, but the idea is there, right? The concept is there. Utilizing the fact that you've got common ground is huge, right? When we're trying to build rapport with people, finding that common ground is absolutely imperative. Sometimes it's done simply by listening. Sometimes it's done, as Brad said, by speaking right to what it is that where they're at, right? Jonathan, you had said that. Meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
But building that rapport is so important, and it's tough. But if you can do it, and there's a means to do it, and I've heard a lot of success from it, and I think it speaks volumes. And really, if you consider all aspects of business, I went back in my head. One of the reasons it speaks to me is because I've been doing that my whole entire business career, right? Never underestimate the power of the thank you note, ever. It's important, and it's not something everyone takes the time to do. So, and also putting it in the size of an envelope, a handwritten note. I've had people really make a point to point that out. Putting something in the mail that is not in a number 10 envelope, that is not made with a label. It's handwritten, and it's actually personalized to the person, even referring to something that maybe occurred during the transaction. So again, you've got personality and customization. It's not just this mill of solicitation that they're very used to. And hey, when you get those relationships, stroke those relationships, groom them, hone them, keep them close. Because it grows. It grows. Referral businesses.
And you never know
the name of the
which
game,
one,
right?
Yeah, you never know. Like Brad said before, he has one client that gives him 55% of his wholesale business goes to this guy, and they kind of have that symbiotic relationship. So attorneys is one of those like long-term referral sources that you want to work and you want to groom. If you're brand new and you need business ASAP, I don't think attorneys is the way to go. You want to go straight to the PRs and get a listing from them. But I love what you're saying, Meggen, is once something closes, go back to the attorney on the file and say, hey, we now share a client together. I just want to thank you for the amazing work you did, if they did. And I'm
right.
assuming
And
that
going one better.
Yeah.
Once you've made that, now you've got your foot in the door. You've got your foot in the door, or as our dear friend Deborah says, I got my stiletto in the door. I've got that listing.
Yeah.
Once you've got your foot in the door with said attorney, hey, I'd love to do business with you again in the future. And, you know, often I often go for folks that don't have attorney representation because I am certified and I can help them through the process. But, you know, sometimes the siblings start squabbling. They start losing authority value. You know, the judge is saying this, you got partial authority and you're going to need some help. And if they start getting nervous and like, my big brother came in, he's bullying me around. We didn't have an attorney. Now he's going to try and manipulate the judge. And again, what I was referring to during the improper, you can develop a referral business right then and there. You know, hey, I'd love to, because you were such a great guy to work with or girl to work with. I'd love to be able to send you these folks that are they just need a little guidance. And, you know, hey, if you'd be willing to give them a consult, give them an hour. I can't tell you how many people that go through my clients that go through probate, we finish the transaction. They're asking me, who do I go to with all the houses that they then buy, right? Now they've got a lump of money. They go out, they buy a house. I sell them that house. And they say, how do I avoid my kids having to go through probate? I say, you know what? You go to a trust attorney, and I know just the person. Boom. A referral relationship is born. And they're golden. You're throwing them business. They're throwing you business. You get to know them well, you know, and you go merrily down the road.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up. I think that's such a great idea of saying, you know, once they close, they're done with it. It's that top of mind awareness of, wow, I just went through this whole thing because grandma didn't have a living trust. Now I'm sitting here with, you know, $150,000. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to pay half that in taxes. I don't want my kids to lose out. What do I do? Let me call Meggen up. Maybe she knows someone. And that's when the referral comes back to the attorney, right? So attorneys love probate business because it's easy and it's good money for them. It's straightforward.
Right.
Let's move on to the next one, which is beneficiaries. Unless, Brad, you have something you want to add with attorneys?
Yeah. So attorneys, there's really, the first thing is to make sure that you got to realize what they don't have. You know, they have a restriction on advertising most of the time, really stringent on what they can do to advertise. And they don't always get the opportunities to buy those off-market deals. So if you're the one that could bring them some deals, and they're an investor, because they suffer with conflict of interest. They see deals all across their desk for the people that they help, but they can't buy it. Conflict of interest. But if you bring them something, that's not.
That's a good point. I never thought about that.
You think
I think about it often, and I don't understand. We have certain clients across the country that will tell me that what we referred to earlier, that the attorney is also a broker, and why that isn't a conflict of interest and the bar gets involved, I have no idea. I don't understand it, but it seems like the same would be true, that they wouldn't be able to service both the agent aspect and the attorney aspect and or investor getting involved as well.
The bottom line is they have a high income, most of them, and you know they want investments, and so if you can bring them investments, they're going to open their eyes to that and they're going to take your call. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's a key point there to run with, and knowing that, you know, it's like Lydia Weissman did in Arizona. She's just fantastic. You know, a lot of times these attorneys they struggle because they can't advertise. You know, so what does she do? She goes and she interviews the attorney, puts that online. That is huge for them because that video is out there now. You know,
that was brilliant.
So if you guys really think about the community here and the power of it and why you're on this call and why you're on the Facebook page, and you can get so much out of it. It's all up to you, but that's what I would do, and that's what things that specifically that work for me. When I try to get a hold of an attorney, I'm like, well, you know, I've got a lot of deals that I come across. Are you interested? And they're like, yeah. I've never had one say, no, I don't do that. They're all like, yeah, I want to, yeah, because they can't do it themselves a lot.
Yeah. Well, let's move forward, guys. Let's we're at the top of the hour at 4:00. Let's go into beneficiaries. Meggen, you're on.
Alrighty, beneficiaries. This is a I want to say in the past year this came to me. I hadn't heard a lot about it, and then I started really asking folks that I came across a client first one I came across is in the San Fernando Valley, actually. And she tells me that she doesn't even bother with the PR. She doesn't have anything to do with them. She said she only prospects solely to beneficiaries. And I said, tell me more. And she said, well, you know, the PR is getting inundated with, again, what I call solicitation fatigue. Potentially the PR is an uninterested party, meaning that Aunt Mary married an oil baron, doesn't need the money, but her brother asked her to please take care of this for his grandchildren. He wants them to have the equity in his home so that they can buy a home with their newly marrieds. So, but again, she's doing that, sure, but she's kind of being a control freak, and she doesn't have any impetus to move on it. So the concept, right, is that the beneficiaries have the vested interest in liquidating the property. And potentially too, if one is working the PR, right, really trying to develop rapport with the PR, now we're 6 months in, we can see that the house is still in the decedent's name. It hasn't been listed, but you're not getting any traction with the PR. The beneficiary is a real viable option to just start reaching out to them. In addition to the fact that when you do finally get someone, you get some traction with those folks, you've got, theoretically, you've got some rapport with the beneficiaries off the bat. So when they do reap the benefit of a wad of equity money, you can help them reinvest into their own home.
Interesting approach. Brad, do you have any thoughts or comments on that?
You know, I just tend to go for the decision maker. You can have a lot of lost time working with beneficiaries. Just my personal experience.
Yeah.
But I think that's sales 101, and that's why it struck me. And it wasn't something that as from a sales standpoint, you're absolutely right. Agree with you 100% that not going for the decision maker. I mean, ask anyone in sales. Are you going to ask the person that's going to hem and haw, or are you going to ask the person that's the decision maker and not mess with anything in between? So I think that just really honestly, I think it's super viable for folks that aren't getting any traction. Also, in the historical prospecting aspect, potentially those are folks that again might have a vested interest. And if I find it interesting that there are people that do deals left, right, and center from it, but because it seems counterintuitive to me too, Brad. That's why I bring it up, because I find it interesting that they don't. It's like that's their little in with their niche. They utilize that thinking that no one else is. And again, very few people go for the beneficiary. So agree with you. Agreed. Always around.
So we're getting some questions like, what do you imagine like an initial call would sound like when you're calling a beneficiary? Without making it too long a story, what would it be like an initial call to a beneficiary sound like or look like? What would be the value proposition that an agent would have? If you can think of any. If you can, that's fine. We can move on. Specifically
with the lady I was just speaking about, she told me, and I don't know that I would do this, to be perfectly honest. I try to take a classy approach to things, but she tried to figure out, and I always say read the lead, right? So if you're reading who the beneficiaries are, and you can see that their name is Alyssa and what's another young person's name? You know, just young names. Then you're thinking, okay, this is about their age range. Potentially they're millennials. And you make your mailing pieces tempting like that. She was saying you have to reach out to beneficiaries, again, meeting them where they're at, by way of generation, which I thought was interesting from a marketing standpoint. And then she would she caters her mailing pieces in that manner. So, and she likes to do mailing first, and often she'll get calls because it's tempting. And she would do something. She mentioned, again, I don't think I would ever do anything like this personally. It's not my jam. But she said, "Have you been to Europe?" She actually wrote that. "Have you been to Europe?" She said, "You wouldn't believe how many of these young folks that responded to that. They don't know." you know.
So the idea here
it's
is
food
being
for
like,
thought.
if they haven't been, they'd be like, well, would you like to go to Europe? You could be with the settlement from this probate, and you know, your aunt's taking her time, but you know, it's kind of going on kind of the back door, applying side pressure. I get it. It's a possible thing. It's a possible thing.
Right,
Let's
and it's using the sort of fear of missing out, or and being in an age potentially like in the millennial age range of just dare to dream. You know,
yeah,
what would be smart would be to invest in a house or some other investment. But you know, again, it's all applicable.
yeah. Well, let's go into historical. This is one of my favorites. I love this one. Why don't you give us a little bit of context? And let me just check in here with our crowd. We'll keep going. We still have over 130 people on, so I think we should keep going. Historical prospecting.
Okay.
What is that? What's the context? Why does it work, and how does it work?
Well, we want to remember that approximately the reason probate is such an incredible niche is because 90% or so of the folks that go through probate will liquidate the property involved within the first year. 90%. However, that does leave a good 10% that will not, and this could be for various and sundry reasons. It is for various and sundry reasons. Many under the sun. So, you know, it could be that grandma has a house full of antiques and everyone's hemming and hawing and we don't know what to do with them. And, well, you know, my daughter, she's in Iraq and she really really wants the kitchen table and I can't store it for her. So the house, these are all stories I've heard, by the way. The house becomes a giant storage unit for the antiquities and or assets that are within the house. No one wants to move on it. They want to just keep everything in place. Maybe it was a unexpected passing and they're not ready to let go yet. Potentially they have ideas of grandeur that they're going to be smart about this and we're going to keep that house. You know, the house is so nice. Let's keep it. We'll rent it out. We'll make money on it, and they liken themselves to property managers, and they have no idea what they're in for. And the list goes on and on and on of why they're not going to sell during the time of probate, even though, again, it's only about 10% of the folks that do. So the process is, knowing this, is that we go back and this is what we use our downloads for. We go back into ProbateData.com, potentially our downloads, or if we've been archiving our leads properly, we can go back into our own leads that we have been emailed all this time. Okay, so it can be just that easy. But we go into ProbateData.com, we do a date range of, say, you know, we're in January of 2020. So let's go back to January 2018. And let's do a date range. We'll call it LA County. We pull several leads out of there. So I'm only going to do about 2 months worth. I'm going to do January and February 2018. And now I've got a big list. I haven't downloaded anything. I'm just looking at a big list of leads, most of which I know by the statistic that it's going to have been liquidated. However, on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a column called Last Sold, and that information is taken right from Zillow. So if I hit the hyperlink that says, you know, show, and it may say NA, meaning not available, but hopefully it'll say, and let's just say it says sold 2019, sold 2018, sold 2020. And then you're going to keep doing that until you come across one that says last sold 2001. Oh, that's interesting to me. It's been 2 years they haven't sold. I wonder why. And when I'm doing my research, I like to go in and I like to drill down on the lead. It's not necessarily something you need to do. And if you've got plenty of downloads, you don't have to. You can just tick this is one I'm interested in. You mark the box, and you continue doing that process, right, until you get through the search that you did. And you'll be able to see from the searches, your previous searches, where you're at in your historical prospecting. So it's not necessarily that you need to keep track, because you'll be able to tell. So the next time when you want to do, say, March and April, you'll be able to tell where you're at. But then I'm going to export them, and I'm going to have this list of folks, and I'm going to try and reach out to them, because no one else is reaching out to them. And whatever the circumstance, and this is key, whatever the circumstance that existed 2 years ago is almost always not the exact circumstance today, right? I don't know about you, but my life is nowhere near the same to the letter than it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And you can go back 4 or 5 years if you want. So the best part of the whole thing is that no one's prospecting to them. They're completely off the radar. Investors, they come in to new leads. They're only interested in the new leads, and then they move on. And agents try and work it during the agents that are working probate typically only want to do it during the course of probate, and then it's kind of off their radar as well. So if you can find these folks and can reach out to them, in addition to that, going and putting, and I love to do this, going and putting their name, if they have a unique name, my name, I don't know if some of you know me, some of you don't. My first name, Meggen, is spelled kind of uniquely. So were it me as a decedent, if I put that into county tax records, it would come up and I could see all of the properties that are still in that decedent's name, because potentially there's not even just one, there could be more, and no one wanted to move on them. Maybe the market was shaky, who knows what their reasoning was. And I can see, wait, okay, they still have these properties in the decedent's name. No one's changed title on any of these properties. Wonder why that is. You know what? I'm gonna go take this property. Let's say it's just one property in the lead that this decedent owns. I'm gonna go put that property into MLS. Oh, this is interesting. It was listed during the course of probate. Huh. And now it's expired. So you have the potential to work it like an expired. You don't even have to really, you've got some distance from potentially the time of passing if it was recent to when they filed. You've got distance from whatever was preventing them from selling it at the time or even listing it. But it just gives you real opportunity. And again, they've gotten away from that solicitation fatigue, which I would dearly love to say is not important, but it is. I mean, it affects people. And I know, when you first buy a brand new home, I know certainly every time I closed escrow on my houses, you get a flood. You got alarm people. You've got, landscape people. You've got contractors wanting to help you improve the property, on and on and on and on. And I'd come home from work and I'd have my wad of mail, including my mortgage statement that I'm already trying to figure out how to budget for. And I'm going trash, 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 trash. Which is not to say that your mailing pieces, that'll happen. It's just that it's something that we need to be aware of, that there is solicitation fatigue. So going with historical prospecting prevents that from being an issue anymore.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I like this a lot is because it's so easy to figure this out inside of probate data. There's that column you said last sold, and you just literally cherry pick. And there's trainings on this on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/probatedata, you'll see how to find out-of-state PRs and how to work that. So for those places where it's a closed state like Arizona, I know that could be a challenge, but typically what you can do is you can just go back, say 12 to 18 months and just download a bunch of cases. And like you said, look up unique names and then see what the property tax situation is like and see if it's sold in the MLS in the last year and a half, 2 years. And if it hasn't, then that's a good lead to get started with. Okay, we're almost up at the end here. There's one question from Ira. I'm just going to answer that question real quick as the ambulance is driving by. He says, I've noticed recently that probate is filed, yet the property is vesting in the name of the decedent's trust. It seems odd that the property will not be included in the trust. And thoughts on how to prospect in the situation. And sometimes I've also seen the vesting as a community property with right of survivorship or joint tenancy. Again, how should you approach? I would approach every probate listing or probate case opportunity as a listing opportunity. You never know what's going to happen. The moment someone files for probate, that's the moment there's motivation to move forward with things. Maybe they have to sell the property, maybe they don't, but it's worth a shot. I remember when Steve Jobs' case came across our desk in our database years ago after he had passed. Everyone was like, what? Why would Steve Jobs? Even Steve Jobs, the creator of the iPhone, his estate was missing a few things. Some of his homes were not fully vested in his living trust, right? Or there were some issues going on there, so they had to go through probate. So that's just my thoughts on that. Brad, you still good? You got another 10 minutes for us?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, so this is kind of the mystery. And I'd like to speak to this one a little bit because I think it's interesting. The niche within a niche. Would it be interesting if you could find historical, and Meggen, feel free to jump in here if I misunderstood what you're going with this. But I'm excited because this is new and novel, so I want to just speak to it. So if we did a historical search where the petitioner was out of state, so we would look for something that was filed, say, 18 or 20 months ago, or 12 to 18 months ago. And one of the search criteria inside of probate data is I could say exclude. So in my case, it would be California. I say exclude California. And I would get a list of cases that were filed 12 to 18 months ago where the PR is out of state. And then I would go through those one at a time and then show me the last sale date, and I would cherry pick the ones that meet my criteria. So that's the context, is going about it in a niche within a niche, right? So now you find people that are still doing this 2 years later or 18 months later. They live in, say, Kentucky, but grandma's property is out here in California, in Los Angeles, and it still hasn't sold. We don't know why. There might be perfectly good reasons. They may not want to sell. They're okay with it. They're just waiting around for stuff, or they may be at a place where they're ready to sell. So you reaching out to them and saying, look, I realize grandma's place is for sale here in Beverly Hills. You're in Louisville, Kentucky. Beverly Hills happens to be my specific niche. That's where me and my team, we specialize. I'm the C-Press. How can I help? I drove by the property the other day. It looks a little bit dilapidated. I took the liberty of just cleaning up a few things, removing some mailers and whatever. I want to make sure grandma's place is taken care of as much as you do. When can we talk about that? So I think that's a good approach. Brad, I don't know if you have any thoughts on like how you would approach this, like historical, meaning older lead, hasn't sold yet, hasn't exchanged title, it's not on the MLS, it's not listed, and it's an out-of-state PR. Like what angle would you lead with?
Well, I would want to, find out why. I would just say, hey, I specialize in helping people like yourself that have, had filed, many months ago, sometimes even many years ago. And I was just wondering, where are you in the process with the probate? Because the reason I ask is that, I have people that are always looking for property, and we have a kind of an off-market inventory here, and just was wondering, are you guys interested in selling the property that's in the estate? And then I start to, and if they're standoffish, I say, oh, I understand. But most of them, it's been so long, like they're untouched. It's kind of like, your usual follow-up. When you have the grit to follow up with your prospect for 7 or 8 weeks straight, you're only in competition with maybe 2 or 3 other people, if that. So now these are great leads to go after, because there's oftentimes it's the desert. There's nobody out there. And then and you might just get somebody. So you really want to gather the information. Again, the whole theme is to get them to be calm, get them to know that you're just trying to give them clarity and help them.
Yeah. Well, guys, this is it. We went way over time. Well,
Just a little bit.
just a tiny smidgen, by about 40 minutes. I thought this was going to take about 40 minutes. There were so many great questions, objections that came in. Brad, thank you so much for handling those. And thank you for your feedback. Meggen, thank you so much for you to taking out your time and sharing with us what you've been teaching and coaching agents for over the last 2 years and them getting results. I'm just curious, Brad and Meggen, like, do you guys have a favorite out of these 5 that we just covered? Is there a favorite that you guys prefer over everything else in terms of which one will get your results the fastest?
I do. I do. I like mystery strategy. I like number 6 because well, again, I go back to read the lead. It allows me to use my intuition and my detectiveness, and it allows me to isolate the information I need, right? I need to know that they're, by definition, if the PR is out of state. I want to know that. And maybe they're not, right? It could be that they're not, but I want to know that the age of the probate and the fact that it's still not sold. I want to use my listening skills. I want to use my social skills to to build rapport. And when I hear folks that do this, they're so excited because you can isolate that information. Just really quickly, one of the reasons I like it is because it allows me to, would allow me to really focus on the estate as a whole. You know, if in 2 years, if this PR who lives in another state, as an example, has been somebody we know for sure someone's paying the property taxes somewhere. Almost, 99% of the time people are going to let them stack up because they're going to be, headed for a lien sale. So you've got the property tax, you've got the insurance that hopefully they're maintaining, you've got the gardener that they've been paying to maintain Grandpa's rose garden, the water heater that went out last fall. All of that stuff is coming off the value of the estate. So, my skill and my the season on my license, as I like to say, is going to allow me to really do a good job for these folks and give them opportunities. I think just being able to, as someone suggested and got a listing out of, to do a drive-by, find out if the house is in disrepair, find out what's going on for it, and then speak to it. You can become kind of the angel that ascended on someone who is like, I've just been so overwhelmed with it. I'm out of state. I'm busy. I'll get to it. Now it's been 2 years. I think that's one of my favorites. And people, I think if you really focus on it, that's a really great one.
All right, Brad, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, my favorite is out of the area. Because I'm just looking for, I want business right now, and so that's where I go for. And I'm glad I get to share this because the people that are still on the line, I want to reward them for just being here for so long. And you'll hear my language. You'll hear how everything is very diffusing. It's very calming. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the main thing is, like, we went over an objection. I think earlier it was about, hey, a friend in the business. So I'm always assuming that that's the first contact with them, because I love how Meggen brought in the C-Press thing, but not always a good thing to bring up on the first call, because imagine how you'd feel if you're like, you start to say, well, is your friend this, is your friend that? So that's something that you can talk to as you're either personally at the appointment,
mm-hmm.
or the fourth or fifth call down the road a little bit, because you don't want to come off like it, because you're trying to set yourself apart. Okay, and these people are dealing with really a pretty heavy experience. Okay, and so you have to remember that selling is serving. Okay, and they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Okay, so and remember, they can be nasty. They can be all kind. I mean, they can come at you really harsh when you're talking to them on the phone or at the door. But remember, it's not their attitude. It's the attitude that you have that determines whether the sale is made or not. Okay, so you're like, and so as you know that I'm really cordial, nice, but sometimes people are nasty, and you have to change your tone a little bit. So you'll find me where I'm like, I'm going to mimic my prospect a bit, and the language that you want to use. So you're talking to them, and they're, and I'm like, well, I want to make sure this works out well for you. Get to the point. I'm busy. You know what, Bill? I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. You need to meet with me, because I'm not going to, waste your time. So there's different language that you want to use at different times, but that's my 2 cents, and hopefully that helps you guys.
Say that again. So it's not so much about what you know or how much you know, but that they know that you care. Say that again. They know that you care about them. Say that thing again.
Yeah. So your prospect, any of these prospects you're talking, I don't care if it's a traditional FSBO expired, person that you're calling around, you're just sold, just listed, the probate seller, they even the attorney, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's huge.
It's 100% agree. 100% agree.
All right, guys. Well, this was fun. I really enjoyed this. So I'm getting a lot of questions. Where is this recording going to be? Well, for the next couple hours, it's going to be in my laptop. I need to convert this thing. I need to upload it, and then it's going to be in our YouTube channel. It's going to be under the category of top rated webinars. Just based on the feedback and what I'm getting right now, a lot of high fives, thank you, and this was awesome, great training. People had to leave, but they let me know how much they liked it. I think this deserves to go in the category of top rated webinars. So I'll put in there, I'll email everyone by tomorrow where you can find it. You know, let us know what else you'd like us to cover. Email support@probatedata.com or support@MTI Education. Let us know how we can help you, and we'll put together a class for you. Meggen, thank you once again, and Brad, thank you to you.
Oh, thanks.
My
Thanks,
pleasure.
everybody.
All right, bye now.
All right.